Cole had never planned to be here. He was just an engineer. His job was to fix broken machines and keep the ship running. He was not a diplomat. He was not important. He was just a regular man from a small town in Ohio who happened to be good with tools. But life had a funny way of changing plans. The ship was called Horizon's Edge. It was one of humanity's finest vessels, sent on the most important mission in human history. 6 months ago, an alien empire had contacted Earth. They called themselves the Dominion. They ruled over 47 star systems. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever seen, and for some reason, they wanted to talk to humanity. Had been excited when he learned his ship was chosen for the diplomatic mission. He had imagined watching from a distance, maybe catching a glimpse of the aliens through a window. He never imagined he would be standing in their palace, wearing his best uniform, trying not to look terrified. The problem had started 3 days ago. A strange illness had swept through the senior crew members. The doctors said it was some kind of alien bacteria, harmless to but dangerous to humans. Half the diplomatic team was now lying in medical beds, too sick to attend the welcoming ceremony. Commander Lisa Harper had made the decision. Every healthy crew member would attend the ceremony. They needed to show strength in numbers. They could not let them think humans were weak. So here was, standing near a table covered with strange alien food, trying to look like he belonged. The palace was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft light. The ceiling was so high that could not see the top. Everything was built for beings much larger than humans. And they themselves were even more impressive than their palace. They stood 9 feet tall with long limbs and graceful movements. Their skin was not like human skin. It glowed with soft colors that changed as they moved. Their eyes were silver like pools of liquid metal. When they looked at, he felt like they could see right through him. Most of them ignored the humans completely. Some looked at them with curiosity, like a person might look at an interesting insect. A few seemed almost angry that these small, weak creatures had been allowed into their sacred halls. Tried to stay invisible. He stood near the refreshment table, holding a drink he was afraid to taste, and watched the ceremony from a distance. That was when he saw her. She moved through the crowd like water flowing around stones. She was tall like all, but there was something different about her. She wore clothes that sparkled with tiny lights. A thin crown of silver metal sat on her head, and her skin glowed with a soft golden color that made her stand out from everyone else. Knew who she was immediately. Princess, youngest daughter of the Emperor. He had seen her picture in the briefing documents. The documents had said she was curious about other species. They had warned the crew to be careful around her because she liked to ask questions. Tried to look away. He was nobody. A princess would have no reason to talk to him. But she was walking toward him. His heart started beating faster. He looked around for an escape route. There was none. The princess stopped right in front of him, her silver eyes looking down at his face. Her skin shifted to a deeper gold color. Had no idea what that meant. When she spoke, her voice was like music. It took him a moment to realize she was speaking English. "You are a human," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, Your Highness," managed to say. His voice came out higher than he wanted. "I have been studying your language," the princess said. "It is very strange. So many words for the same things. So many rules that make no sense." Did not know how to respond to that. "English is difficult," he agreed. The princess tilted her head. Her eyes moved to his wrist. "What is that device you wear?" Looked down at his wristwatch. It was old and scratched, with a leather band that had been repaired many times. It had belonged to his grandfather before him. "It is called a watch," he said. "It tells time." "Time?" The princess seemed confused. "But time simply exists. How can a small device tell it?" Found himself smiling despite his nervousness. "It measures time. Hours, minutes, seconds. It helps us know when things should happen. The princess lowered herself slightly, bringing her face closer to his wrist. Her skin glowed brighter with interest. Show me how it works. For the next hour, forgot where he was. He forgot that he was just an engineer talking to alien royalty. He explained how gears and springs work together to move the tiny hands around the dial. He told her about his grandfather, who had worn this same watch during a war on Earth, who had passed it down to his father, who had given it to. The princess listened to everything. She asked questions that showed she truly understood what he was saying. She wanted to know why humans measured time at all, why they divided it into such small pieces, why this old device meant so much to him. Your people are strange, she finally said. You live such short lives, yet you count every moment so carefully. Maybe that is why we count them, replied, because we have so few. The princess was silent for a long moment. Her skin shifted to a soft white color. Then she smiled, and it was the most beautiful and terrifying thing had ever seen. I think I like humans, she said. After she left, Commander Harper appeared at side. Her face was pale. Do you have any idea what you just did? She asked. I was just answering her questions, said. You spent an hour in private conversation with the Emperor's daughter. Half the court was watching. There will be rumors. Felt his stomach drop. I did not mean to cause problems. Commander Harper sighed. Just be careful, Cole. We are guests here. Everything we do matters. Nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the princess, about her strange questions and her glowing skin. He was thinking about the way she had smiled. He had no way of knowing that this meeting would change his life forever. He had no way of knowing that in just a few days, he would give his life to save hers. For now, he was just an engineer who had talked too long with a princess. But nothing would ever be the same again. Days that followed were strange for Cole. He tried to return to his normal duties, fixing broken machines and running system checks on the ship, but things were different now. The princess kept finding him. It happened again on the second day. Was walking through the palace gardens, a place full of plants that glowed with inner light. She appeared beside him without warning and asked him about flowers on Earth. He spent 2 hours describing roses and tulips and the cherry trees that bloomed in spring. On the third day, she found him in the library. She wanted to know about human books, about stories and poems and the strange way humans put their thoughts on paper. Told her about his favorite book from childhood, a simple story about a boy and his dog. On the fourth day, she brought him a gift. It was a small crystal that fit in his palm, smooth and warm to the touch. She called it a memory shard. Inside it were poems, translated into English just for him. You taught me about human time, she said. Now I teach you about words. Did not know what to say. He had never received such a gift. He held the crystal carefully, feeling its warmth against his skin. Commander Harper was getting worried. She pulled aside after every meeting with the princess. People are talking, she warned. The nobles do not like seeing the princess spend time with a human. Some of them think we are beneath them. I am not trying to cause trouble, said. She just keeps finding me. Then try harder to not be found. But did not try very hard. The truth was, he enjoyed talking to the princess. She was different from anyone he had ever met. She asked questions no one else thought to ask. She listened like every word mattered. When she smiled, her whole face lit up with colors he could not name. He knew it was dangerous. He knew he was just an engineer from Ohio and she was royalty from a star empire. But he could not help himself. The seventh day arrived too quickly. This was the day of the treaty signing. This was the day that would change the relationship between humans and forever. If everything went well, humanity would gain access to alien medicine that could cure diseases that had killed millions. Cancer, heart disease, conditions that had plagued Earth for centuries could finally be defeated. In return, they wanted something that seemed strange to. They wanted human art, paintings, music, books, movies, things that seemed simple and ordinary to humans but were completely alien to their culture had developed along different paths. They had never created anything like human creativity. Put on his best uniform again. The entire crew had been ordered to attend. This time, even the sick crew members forced themselves out of bed. No one wanted to miss this moment. The ceremonial chamber was even larger than the welcoming hall. The ceiling was made of glass, showing the stars above. Thousands of nobles filled the room, their glowing skin creating a sea of shifting colors. At the far end, on a throne that seemed carved from a single massive crystal, sat Emperor himself. The Emperor was old, had read that he had ruled for 3,000 years. His skin glowed with pale blue light and his movements were slow and careful, but his eyes were sharp. When those silver eyes swept across the crowd, felt like the Emperor could see into his very soul. Princess stood near her father's throne. She wore formal robes that sparkled with 1,000 tiny lights. When she saw in the crowd, her skin shifted to that familiar gold color. She gave him a small smile. The ceremony began with rituals did not understand. Priests in long robes chanted in a language older than human civilization. Smoke rose from burning crystals, filling the air with a sweet smell that made his head feel light. The Emperor rose from his throne. The entire chamber fell silent. He began walking toward the human ambassador, a woman named Dr. Wells who had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. Watched from his position near the edge of the crowd, he was far from the center of events, just another face among thousands. His job was simply to stand and look respectful. But his eyes kept moving. His engineering brain never stopped working. He was always looking for things that did not belong, patterns that did not fit. That was why he noticed the noble. The stood near the princess, dressed in fine robes like all the others. He was tall and thin, with skin that glowed a dull green color. In his hand he held something small, almost hidden by his long fingers. At first thought it was just a ceremonial object. Many nobles carried such things, but something about it bothered him. The way it pulsed with light, the rhythm of that pulsing. Had seen that pattern before, in the reactor core of his ship. It was the pattern of energy building toward release. His blood went cold. The noble's skin flickered. The green shifted to deep red, a color had never seen on any. Later, he would learn that red meant hatred, pure and burning hatred. The noble raised his hand. The device was pointing at the princess. Did not think. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He pushed through the crowd, shoving aside nobles 3 times his size. He heard shouts of surprise and anger, but he did not stop. The device was glowing brighter now. The noble's arm was steady. Princess had not noticed. She was watching her father walk toward the human ambassador. Reached her just as the device activated. He threw himself at the princess with all his strength. His body collided with hers, driving her to the ground. He covered her with himself, making his body a shield between her and the blast. The explosion hit him in the back. It felt like being struck by lightning and fire at the same time. He felt his bones break. He felt his organs tear. He felt pain beyond anything he had ever imagined. But he did not let go of the princess. He held on even as his body was destroyed. The chamber erupted into chaos. Guards moved to capture the assassin. Nobles screamed and ran in all directions. The emperor's voice boomed across the room, commanding order. Heard none of it. He was falling into darkness. The last thing he felt was the princess beneath him, alive and unharmed. The last thing he heard was her voice, crying out in a language he did not understand. Then there was nothing. Cole died on the floor of the ceremonial chamber, his body broken beyond repair. He died saving a princess he had known for only 7 days. He died without knowing if his sacrifice had meant anything at all. But death, as he would soon learn, was not the end. Not for him. Not anymore. The first thing felt was warmth. It was a strange kind of warmth, not like sunlight or a fire. It came from inside him as if every cell in his body was being gently heated. It was not unpleasant. In fact, it felt almost peaceful. The second thing he felt was pain. It was distant, like an echo of something terrible. It centered in his back and spread through his whole body. He knew he should be screaming, but somehow the warmth kept the pain at bay. He tried to remember what had happened. There was a ceremony, a flash of red, a device, the princess. The princess. He had jumped in front of her. He had felt the blast hit his back. He had felt himself dying. But he was not dead now. He was feeling things. He was thinking things. Dead people did not do that. Opened his eyes. The light was too bright at first. He blinked several times, waiting for his vision to clear. Slowly, shapes began to form. He was lying on his back on some kind of raised platform. Above him, the ceiling glowed with soft blue light. He turned his head to the side, and his breath caught in his throat. He was surrounded by. Hundreds of them stood in concentric circles around his platform. Their glowing skin filled the room with shifting colors he had no names for. Deep purple, bright gold, soft white, pale silver. Every single one of them was staring at him with those liquid silver eyes. At the foot of his platform stood a figure he recognized immediately. Emperor looked down at him, his ancient face showing no emotion. Behind the emperor stood rows of guards, nobles, and priests in ceremonial robes. Tried to speak, but his throat would not work. All that came out was a dry croak. A gentle hand touched his shoulder. He turned his head the other way and found Princess kneeling beside him. Her skin glowed pure white, brighter than he had ever seen. There were patterns on her face that might have been tears. "Do not try to speak yet," she said softly. "Your body is still healing." Healing? Mind spun with confusion. He remembered the blast. He remembered his bones breaking, his organs failing. He remembered dying. The emperor spoke. His voice was deep and ancient, filling the chamber without effort. Strangely, understood every word, even though the emperor spoke in his own language. "You were dead for 3 days," the emperor said. "The weapon that struck you was designed to kill instantly. It destroyed most of your internal organs. It shattered your spine. It stopped your heart." Stared at the emperor, unable to respond. "By all rights, your body should have been returned to your people for whatever death rituals you practice. You should be nothing but ashes now." The emperor paused. His silver eyes moved to Princess. "But my daughter invoked an ancient law, a law that has not been used in over 1,000 years. The right of." Had never heard that term before. He looked at the princess, searching for an explanation. "When a life is freely given to protect royal blood," she said quietly, "that life becomes bound to the crown. The one who gave their life must be saved, no matter the cost." "We used every resource at our disposal," the emperor continued. "Our finest healers, our most advanced technology, things we have never shared with any other species. For 3 days they worked to rebuild you, cell by cell, organ by organ." His hand moved to his chest. He could feel his heart beating, strong and steady, but something was different. The rhythm was not quite the same as before. "You are no longer entirely human," the emperor said. "The damage was too severe. We had to replace parts of you with our own technology. Your heart, your lungs, your spine, even parts of your brain had to be repaired." Felt dizzy. This was too much information. He had died, he had been rebuilt, he was no longer human. "What am I now?" he managed to whisper. "You are," the emperor said. The word echoed through the chamber. Every in the room reacted. Some gasped. Some bowed their heads. Some looked at with expressions he could not read. "Means shield of the crown," Princess explained. It is the highest honor our people can give. It has not been granted to anyone outside our species in the entire history of our civilization. The emperor did something that made the entire court fall silent. He descended from his raised position and knelt before his platform. His ancient body bent low, his head bowing toward the broken human on the table. Behind him, every in the chamber followed. Hundreds of beings, each one older and more powerful than any human, knelt before a simple engineer from Ohio. "You gave your life for my daughter," the emperor said. "You did not hesitate. You did not calculate the odds. You simply acted, putting her life above your own. In 3,000 years, I have never seen such a thing from an outsider." Did not know what to say. He had not thought about being a hero. He had not planned to sacrifice himself. He had just moved. "The assassin has been captured," the emperor continued. "He was a noble named Lord Al. He confesses to nothing, but we know he did not act alone. There are others who wanted my daughter dead." The emperor rose to his feet, his ancient eyes locked onto us. "You have earned a place in my household. You are bound to the crown now, by law and by blood. Your old life is over." His mind reeled. His old life, his ship, his crew, his home on Earth. "I understand this is difficult," Princess said gently. "Everything has changed, but you are alive. Against all odds, you are alive." She took his hand in hers. Her skin was warm, almost hot, and it glowed brighter where they touched. "I could not let you die," she said. "You taught me about human time. You showed me that every moment matters. I was not ready to lose you." Looked at her face. He saw gratitude there and something else, something deeper. "The treaty has been signed," the emperor said. "Your people will receive our medical knowledge. The alliance between our species has been cemented, in part because of your actions. Humanity has proven itself capable of great courage." There would be time later to understand everything. Time to learn about his new body, his new role, his new life. Time to contact his ship and tell Commander Harper that he was alive. Time to figure out what it meant to be. But for now, simply lay on the platform, surrounded by hundreds of kneeling aliens, holding the hand of a princess whose life he had saved. He was no longer entirely human. He was no longer nobody. He was the shield of the crown. And his story was just beginning. The weeks that followed were the strangest of his life. Every morning, he woke up in chambers larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. Every day, he learned something new about his changed body, his new role, and the world he now lived in. The treatments had done more than save his life. They had made him stronger, faster, and more aware. His senses were sharper than before. He could hear whispered conversations from across a room. He could see in near darkness. His body healed from small injuries in hours instead of days. But the changes came with a cost. He was no longer fully human. The technology woven into his cells had made him something new, something that did not fit neatly into any category. He was not human. He was not. He was something in between. Commander Lisa Harper visited him 3 weeks after his awakening. She looked older than he remembered, with dark circles under her eyes and worry lines on her face. "You look good," she said, though her voice was uncertain, "considering you were dead." "I feel strange," admitted. "Everything is too loud, too bright. My heart beats differently. I'm not sure who I am anymore." Harper sat down across from him. His new chambers had furniture designed for both human and visitors. The human chairs looked tiny next to the ones. "Earth is in chaos," she said. "News of what you did has spread everywhere. Some people call you a hero. They say you proved that humans belong among the stars." "And the others?" Harper hesitated. "Some people are angry. They say you abandoned humanity. They say you let the aliens change you into something unnatural." Had expected this. He knew not everyone would understand. "What do you think?" he asked. Harper was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled just a little. I think you saved a life without thinking about yourself. I think that makes you a hero, no matter what anyone says." But there was more to discuss than his reputation. Harper brought news that troubled him deeply. "The assassin, Lord Al, is still refusing to talk," she said. "But we have been investigating. The weapon he used was not technology." Leaned forward. "What was it?" "A hybrid. Parts from 3 different species, including components that could only have been manufactured on Earth." The implication hit like a punch to the stomach. Someone from Earth helped him. "It looks that way. We do not know who yet. But there is a conspiracy here. Someone wanted to destroy the alliance between our species. They wanted war." After Harper left, could not stop thinking about what she had said. A conspiracy that reached from the court all the way to Earth. Enemies on both sides who wanted to see humans and at each other's throats. And the princess was still in danger. That night, Princess came to his chambers. She often visited in the evenings when the court was quiet and they could talk without being watched. She brought food from the palace kitchens and stories about her day. But tonight, her skin glowed with worried colors. "You have heard about the investigation," she said. "Commander Harper told me." The princess sat down beside him. In the soft light, her silver eyes looked almost human. "Lord Al was not working alone. I am certain of it. He was a minor noble with few resources. He could not have obtained that weapon by himself." "Do you have suspects?" "Many. My father has enemies in the court. There are those who believe the alliance with humanity is a mistake. They think your species is beneath us, that we should conquer you rather than befriend you." Felt a cold anger building in his chest. These people had tried to kill. They had nearly succeeded, and they were still out there planning their next move. "I want to help," he said. The princess looked surprised. "Help how?" "I am an engineer. I solve problems. I find faults in systems." He met her eyes. "Let me find the faults in this conspiracy." Over the following weeks, threw himself into the investigation. His new status as gave him access to parts of the palace that were closed to ordinary visitors. He could attend court sessions. He could read diplomatic communications. He could question nobles who would never have spoken to a mere human. And his engineering mind proved useful in unexpected ways. He was trained to see patterns, to trace problems back to their sources. A faulty machine always left clues. A conspiracy was no different. He started with the weapon. He traced its components backward, finding the factories where each piece had been made, the ships that had transported them, the hands they had passed through. The trail led him through 6 star systems and 14 different worlds. He found the money next. Lord Al had received large payments from hidden accounts, followed the payments through layers of false names and shell companies. The money came from 2 sources. One was a noble house. The other was a human corporation called Stellar Dynamics. Stellar Dynamics built weapons. They would profit enormously from a war between humans and finally, found the connections. 3 of the Emperor's own advisors had met secretly with Lord Al in the weeks before the assassination attempt. They had left no records of these meetings, but found witnesses who had seen them together. The conspiracy was larger than anyone had suspected. It reached into the highest levels of both societies. Brought his evidence to the princess. Together, they went to someone the princess trusted completely. Her name was High Priestess, keeper of sacred law. She was ancient even by standards, and her authority in matters of treason exceeded even the emperor's. Listened to everything. She examined the evidence with eyes that seemed to see through every lie and deception. When finished speaking, she was silent for a long time. "You have done well," she finally said. "Better than our own investigators. You have found truth that many wish to remain hidden." "What happens now?" asked. "Now we act, quickly, before the conspirators can escape." The arrests happened simultaneously across 12 star systems. Security forces moved against the 3 advisors. Human authorities on Earth seized the executives of Stellar Dynamics. Lord Al's allies were captured before they could flee. None of them had expected it. None of them had imagined that a simple human engineer could unravel their carefully constructed plans. When it was over, stood in the Emperor's private chambers, looked at him with an expression that might have been respect. "You have done my empire a great service," the Emperor said. "You have protected my daughter not once but twice." "I just followed the evidence," said. "You did more than that. You saw what others refused to see. You acted when others hesitated." The Emperor paused. "You have proven that my daughter's faith in your species was not misplaced." Princess stood beside her father, her skin glowing with warm colors. "What will happen to the conspirators?" asked. "Law is clear on matters of treason," the Emperor said. "Their genetic lines will be ended. Their names will be erased from all records. They will be forgotten by history." It was harsh by human standards, but understood. The believed that existence itself was a gift. To be forgotten was a fate worse than death. The trial would begin soon, would testify before the full court. The evidence he had gathered would condemn those who had tried to destroy everything he now cared about. He was no longer just a shield, he was a sword as well. And the conspiracy had been shattered by a man they had dismissed as insignificant. The trial lasted 40 days. Stood before the full court, his words translated into 17 languages for the diplomats and dignitaries who had gathered from across the galaxy. He spoke clearly and carefully, presenting the evidence he had gathered piece by piece. The conspirators tried to deny everything. They claimed the evidence was false, that they had been framed, that no noble would ever work with humans for such a purpose. But the evidence was too strong. The payments, the meetings, the weapon components, everything pointed to their guilt. High Priestess delivered the verdict on the 40th day. Her voice echoed through the great chamber like thunder. "The accused are guilty of treason against the crown. They sought to murder the princess and destroy the alliance with humanity. They placed personal hatred above the good of the empire." The punishment was exactly as the Emperor had described. The conspirators would be erased. Their names would be removed from every record. Their family lines would end. In 1,000 years, no one would remember they had ever existed. It was harsh. Knew that many humans would be horrified by such a punishment. But he had learned that they saw existence differently. To them, being remembered was the highest honor. Being forgotten was the ultimate defeat. The human conspirators faced their own justice. The executives of Stellar Dynamics were arrested and put on trial on Earth. They would spend the rest of their lives in prison, stripped of their wealth and power. Their company was dissolved, its assets distributed to the families of those who had been hurt by their actions. When it was over, felt empty. The anger that had driven him through the investigation was gone. The purpose that had kept him moving was complete. He stood on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens, watching ships pass through the night sky. His wristwatch ticked quietly against his skin, a reminder of the man he used to be. Emperor found him there. "You are troubled," the Emperor said. "I do not know what to do next," admitted. "The conspiracy is finished. My purpose is complete." The Emperor stood beside him, his ancient eyes reflecting the starlight. "I have ruled this empire for 3,000 years," he said. "In that time I have seen countless species rise and fall. Most are predictable in their nature. The strong conquer, the weak submit, the clever scheme. But humans continue to surprise me." Said nothing. He was not sure what the Emperor was trying to say. "You came here as a simple engineer. You saved my daughter's life without hesitation. You died for her and were reborn. You uncovered a conspiracy that threatened both our peoples. And now you stand here, uncertain of your place in the universe." The Emperor turned to face him. "I offer you a choice that only you can make. Listen. You can return to Earth. Your duties as can be suspended in recognition of your service. The technology we placed in your body can be removed, and you can live out your days as a normal human. You will age and die as your kind always has. You will return to the life you knew before. Thought about Earth. He thought about Ohio, about the small house where he grew up, about the friends and family he had left behind. It had been less than a year since he had departed on the horizon's edge, but it felt like a lifetime ago. "What is the other choice?" he asked. "You stay here. The treatments that saved your life have changed you in ways we are still discovering. Yours has been extended significantly. You could live for centuries, perhaps longer. You would serve as a bridge between our peoples, a living symbol of what humans can achieve together." Centuries? The word echoed in his mind. He could live for centuries. He could watch generations of humans come and go. He could see the future that most people only dreamed about. But it would mean leaving behind everything he had known. "This is not a decision I expect you to make quickly," the emperor said. "Take whatever time you need." He left alone on the balcony, staring at the stars. The next morning, Princess came to see him. She found him in his chambers, holding his grandfather's watch in his hands. "My father told me about the choice he offered you," she said. "Did he tell you which one he hopes I will make?" The princess sat down across from him. Her skin glowed with soft colors that had learned to read over the past months. She was nervous but hopeful. "He did not need to tell me. I know my father. He sees value in you. He believes you could do great things for both our peoples." "And what do you believe?" The princess was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he had ever heard. "I believe I am not ready to say goodbye to you." Looked at her. In the months since his awakening, they had spent countless hours together. She had taught him about culture, history, and traditions. He had taught her about human music, books, and dreams. They had argued and laughed and shared secrets that neither had shared with anyone else. He had not planned to fall in love with an alien princess. He had not imagined that she might feel the same way. But here they were. "If I stay," he said slowly, "I will watch everyone I knew on Earth grow old and die. My friends, my family, everyone. I will be alone." "You will not be alone," the princess said. "You will have me. You will have my family. You will have a place in this court for as long as you want it." She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm against his, glowing brighter where they touched. "You taught me that every moment matters," she said. "You showed me that humans count their time carefully because they have so little of it. But now you have more time than you ever imagined. What will you do with it?" Looked at his grandfather's watch. The old man had worn it through war and peace, through joy and sorrow. He had passed it down as a reminder that time was precious, that every second counted. But perhaps time was not the only thing that mattered. Perhaps the people you spent it with were just as important. He made his choice. 100 years later, Ambassador Cole stood at the window of his office, watching ships from a dozen species pass through the station that bore his name. The human alliance had grown into something no one could have predicted a century ago. 12 species now belonged to the coalition, united not by conquest but by cooperation. His hair had turned silver long ago, but his body remained strong. The treatments had proven even more effective than anyone had predicted. He would likely live another 300 years at least. The door opened behind him. He smiled without turning. Empress joined him at the window. Her father had passed away 30 years ago, after a reign of over 3,000 years. Now she led the Dominion, the first empress in their history to rule with a human consort at her side. Their children, impossible by all biological logic yet very much real, were attending the academy on Earth. They were learning about both halves of their heritage, preparing to serve as bridges between species just as their father had. "The ambassador from the system has arrived," said another species asking to join the alliance. That makes 13. 14, if we count the delegation from the outer rim. Watched a human ship pass by, its hull gleaming in the starlight. 100 years ago, humans had been newcomers to the galaxy, small and weak and easily dismissed. Now they stood as equals among the stars. "Do you ever regret your choice?" asked. Turned to look at her. Even after a century together, her beauty still took his breath away. Her skin glowed with the colors of love and contentment. He thought about everything he had experienced since that day in the ceremonial chamber. The trials and triumphs, the children who had grown up calling him father, the friends he had made and lost, the future he had helped build with his own hands. "I have made many choices in my life," he said. "Some were good, some were bad, some I regret." He reached out and took her hand. "But shielding you from that blast all those years ago remains the easiest choice I ever made. I would do it again in a heartbeat." Smiled, and her skin glowed brighter than all the stars outside the window. "I know," she said. "That is why I love you." They stood together, watching the ships pass by, the human and the Empress. Some things were worth any price. Cole had proven that 100 years ago. And he would keep proving it for centuries to come.